Chapter 2. Congo had just blown out the palm oil lamp, stretched himself onto his bamboo bed when he'd heard the Oji of the town crier piercing the still night air. Go, 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 boomed the hollow metal. Then the crier gave his message, and at the end of it beat his instrument again. And this was the message. Every man of Wolfia was asked to gather at the marketplace tomorrow morning. Okanko wondered what was amiss, for he knew certainly that something was amiss. He had discerned a clear overtone of tragedy on the crier's voice, and even now he could still hear it in the crier's voice, as it grew dimmer and dimmer in the distance. The night was very quiet. His wired tail just took over all the camera. Hello, cat. Please lie down. Hello.
Is that the recording?
Yes. No. That, not near the... No. That would have been terrible. The night was very quiet. It was always quiet, except on moonlit nights. Darkness held a vague terror for these people, even the bravest amongst them. The children were warned not to whistle at night for fear of evil spirits. Dangerous animals became even more sinister and uncanny in the dark. A snake was never called by his name at night because it would hear. It was called a string. So on this particular night, as the crier's voice was gradually swallowed up in the distance, silence returned to the world, a vibrant silence made more intense by the universal trill of a million forest insects. On a moonlit night it would be different. The happy voices of children playing in open fields would then be heard. Perhaps those not so young would be playing in pairs in less open places, and old men and women would remember their youth. As the Yibo say, when the moon is shining, the cripple becomes hungry for a walk. But this particular night was dark and silent, and in all the 9 villages of Ulofia, a town crier was, with his ujin, asked every man to be present tomorrow morning. Okanko, on his bamboo bed, tried to figure out the nature of the emergency. War with a neighboring clan? That seemed the most likely reason, and he was not afraid of war. He was a man of action, a man of war. Unlike his father, he could stand the look of blood. In Umofia's latest war, he was the first to bring home a human head. That was his 5th head, and he was not an old man yet. On great occasions, such as the funeral of a village celebrity, he drank his palm wine from his human head, his first one. In the morning, the marketplace was full. There must have been about 10,000 men there, all talking in low voices. At last, Obuifi Ezugo stood up in the midst of them and bellowed 4 times, Umofia Kwenu. And on each occasion, he faced a different direction and seemed to push the air with a clenched fist, and 10,000 men answered, yeah, each time. Then there was perfect silence. Obuifi Ezugo, I forgot how I said the name, was a powerful orator, and was always chosen to speak on such occasions. He moved his hand over his white head and stroked his white beard. He then adjusted his cloth, which was passed over his right armpit and tied above his left shoulder. Umofia Kwenu. He bellowed a 5th time, and the crowd yelled in answer. And then suddenly, like one possessed, he shot out his left hand and pointed in the direction of Mbeno, and said, through gleaming white teeth firmly clenched, those sons of wild animals have dared to murder a daughter of Wolfia. He threw his head down and gnashed his teeth, and allowed a murmur of suppressed anger to sweep the crowd. When he began again, the anger on his face was gone, and in its place a sort of smile hovered, more terrible and more sinister than the anger. And in a clear, unemotional voice, he told Umofia how their daughter had gone to a market at Mbeno and been killed. That woman, said Ezugo, was the wife of Arguefi Udo, and he pointed to a man who sat near him with a bowed head. The crowd then shouted with anger and thirst for blood. Yeah, I'd stop doing that. She doesn't like it. Many others spoke at the end, and it was decided to follow the normal course of action. An ultimatum was immediately dispatched to Umbeno, asking them to choose between the war on one hand and the other an offer of a young man and a virgin as compensation. Umofia was feared by all its neighbors. It was powerful in war and in magic, and its priests and medicine men were feared in all the surrounding country. Its most potent ward medicine was as old as the clan itself. Nobody knew how old, but on one point there was general agreement. The active principle in that medicine had been an old woman with one leg. The medicine itself was called Agari Nueyi, or Old Woman. It had its shrine in the center of Morphia, in a cleared spot, and if anybody was so foolhardy as to pass by the shrine after dusk, he was sure to see the old woman hopping about. And so the neighboring clans, who naturally knew of these things, feared Morphia, and would not go to war against it without first trying a peaceful settlement. And in fairness to Morphia, it should be recorded that it never went to war unless its case was clear and just, and was accepted as such by its oracle, the oracle of the hills and the claves. And there were indeed occasions when the oracle had forbidden Morphia to wage a war. If the clan had obeyed the oracle, they would surely have been beaten, because their dreaded Agari Nueyi would never fight with the Ibu. Call a fight of blame. Disobeyed the oracle. That makes more sense. But the war that now threatened was a just war. Even the enemy clan knew that, so when Okanko of Umofia arrived at Mbeno as the proud and imperious emissary of war, he was treated with great honor and respect. 2 days later he returned home with a lad of 15 and a young virgin. The lad's name was Akimefuna, whose sad story is still told in Umofia unto this day. The elders, or Ndiche, met to hear a report of Okanko's mission. At the end, they decided, as everybody knew they would, that the girl should go to Arguefi Udo to replace his murdered wife. As for the boy, he belonged to the clan as a whole, and there was no hurry to decide his fate. Okanko was, therefore, asked on behalf of the clan to look after him in the interim. And so for 3 years, Ikemefuna lived in Okanko's household. Okanko ruled his household with a very heavy hand. His wives, especially the youngest, lived in perpetual fear of his fiery temper, and so did his little children. Perhaps down his heart, Okanko was not a cruel man, but his whole life was dominated by fear, the fear of failure and of weakness. It was deeper and more intimate than the fear of evil and capricious gods and of magic, the fear of the forest and the forces of nature, malevolent, red in tooth and claw. Okanko's fear was greater than these. It was not external, but lay deep within himself. It was the fear of himself, lest he should be found to resemble his father. Even as a little boy, he had resented his father's failure and weakness, and even now he still remembered how he had suffered when a playmate had told him that his father was Agbala. That was how Okanko first came to know that Agbala was not only another name for a woman, it could also mean a man who had taken no title. And so Okanko was ruled by one passion, to hate everything that his father, Unoka, had loved. One of these things was gentleness, and another was idleness. You know, he's a terrible guy, but with good intentions, and for a goodly terrible reason. His shitty loving father. During the planting season, Okanko worked daily on his farms from cockcrow until okay. That makes sense. I thought till the chickens went to roost. Okay, no, never mind. Now it doesn't make sense. Cockcrow until the roost. Okay, no. Okay, I was reading bird, not bird sound. Okay. On his farms from cockcrow until the chickens went to roost. He was a very strong man and rarely felt fatigue. But his wives and young children were not as strong, and so they suffered, but they dared not complain openly. Okanko's first son, Nuoye, was then 12 years old, but was already causing his father great anxiety, and for his incipient laziness. At any rate, that was how it looked to his father, and he sought to correct him by beating the living shit out of him. By constant nagging and, oh look, beating. And so Nuoye was developing into a sad-faced youth. 'Cause that's what happens when you beat your children, folks. Don't do it. Okanko's prosperity was visible in his household. He had a large compound enclosed by a thick wall of red earth. His own hut, or obi, stood immediately behind the only gate in the red walls. Each of his 3 wives had her own hut, which together formed a half-moon behind the obi. The barn was built against one end of the red walls, and long stacks of yams stood out prosperously in it. At the opposite end of the compound was a shed for the goats, and each wife built a small attachment to her hut for the hens. Near the barn was a small house, the medicine house, or shrine, where Okanko kept the wooden symbols of his personal god and of his ancestral spirits. He worshipped them with sacrifices of kola nuts, food, and palm wine, and offered prayers to them on behalf of himself, his 3 wives, and 8 children. So when the daughter of Umofia was killed in Mbeno, Ikemefuna came into Okanko's household. When Okanko brought him home that day, he called his most senior wife and handed him over to her. He belongs to the clan, he told her, so look after him. Is he staying long with us? She asked. Do what you are told, woman, Okanko thundered and stammered. When did you become one of the Ndiche of Umofia? And so Nuoye's mother took Ikemefuna to her hut and asked no more questions, because that's how you treat women. As for the boy himself, he was terribly afraid. He could not understand what was happening to him, or what he had done. How could he know that his father had taken a hand in killing a daughter of Umofia? All he knew was that a few men had arrived at their house, conversing with his father in low tones, and at the end he had been taken out and handed over to a stranger. Because that's how you treat your children. His mother had wept bitterly, but he had been too surprised to weep. And so the stranger had brought him and a girl a long, long way from home, through lonely forest paths. He did not know who the girl was, and he would never see her again. So what we've got now is a contrast between 2 terrible fathers, and debatably 2 terrible people. One who beats his kid, the other one who doesn't pay his debts, and therefore leaves his kid hating him, everything he stands for, and his own existence, thus leading to him beating his kids, hating his father, and his own existence, as well as everything his father stands for. Then we have a third father, who, killed a girl, let his son be taken off by strangers, and, killed the person. Until next time.